Welcome to Information Week's Valley View. I'm David Berlind.
And I'm Fritz Nelson.
And it's been about 4 weeks since we had our last Valley View. A lot has happened since then. We have a lot of people here in our in-studio audience, many of you watching online. And as usual, we have a great lineup for you. We're going to start things off with Andy Bechtolsheim. He is the CEO, chairman, and founder of Arista Networks. And then we're going to follow him up with the co-founder of Salesforce.com, Parker Harris. Sticking with the cloud theme, we're going to have Josh McKenty. He is the CEO and founder of a new cloud-based startup founded last year in 2011, Piston Cloud. And then we're going to have Phil Libin. He is the CEO of Evernote, a piece of software that we use to help organize this show. And then we're going to introduce a new segment to Valley View. We're going to randomly pick a member from our audience to feature their company in what we call an elevator pitch. They get to say what it is they do. Our audience gets to consider that. We get to ask some questions, and then hopefully we move on to the final grand finale of the show. This is when we give away some gear, not only to members of our in-studio audience, but also to 2 lucky members of our online audience. Now, Fritz, a lot has happened in the last 4 weeks since we last did the show. You usually like to do a recap of the news. What's been happening?
All right, let's get to it. First of all, amid the brouhaha over Rush Limbaugh calling Georgetown student Sandra Fluke a prostitute and a slut on his radio show, it went almost unnoticed that Citrix, makers of virtualization technology, pulled its advertising from the show in protest. Limbaugh countered that some of the company's products were merely in an attempt to plant sexual innuendo on his show, especially products like Citrix Receiver and VD in a Box. The new iPad
Fritz, that's VDI, Virtual Desktop Infrastructure, not VD.
Oh, still sounds filthy to me, David. The new iPad just came out a couple of weeks ago to rave reviews. The tablets pack in 3.1 million pixels into its 2048 by 1536 resolution screen, known as the Retina display. In related news, Research in Motion's BlackBerry Playbook now has email. Microsoft's cloud service, Azure, was impacted by a bug related to leap year. Fortunately, not too many people were impacted because, well, Microsoft just doesn't have that many Azure customers. In a follow-up, Microsoft assured its customer it was fully prepared for the rapture. A research team at Iowa State University discovered that spider silk was an amazing organic conductor of heat, even better than silicon, leading to many potential technology uses. Inexplicably, the 8 golden silk orb weaver spiders the researchers used also created webs saying, "That's some pig." Down the road in Sunnyvale, AMD fired hundreds of workers and replaced them with silk-spinning arachnids. No word on whether they had to provide Facebook credentials. AMD CEO Roy Reed said, "If we can just teach them what a memory management unit is, we'll be unstoppable." Upon hearing the news, Monica Lewinsky quipped, "Just remember, silk is dry clean only." Those Monica Lewinsky jokes never get old. Did you hear that the Obama campaign opened a San Francisco office? A sign, of course, that the president plans to make technology work for him the way it did in 2008 when his campaign reached supporters through social networks. In a sign of the campaign's evolution, it looks like the president has taken to Pinterest. Here are some of his Pinterest boards. I'm a badass. Places that are the bomb, and places I'd like to bomb. Here's Mitt Romney's road trip. And my favorite, world leaders separated at birth. Here's Russian President Vladimir Putin and Dobby. Now German Chancellor Angela Merkel and Paul McCartney. Senator Mitch McConnell and Beaker. Senator John Kerry and Guy Smiley. And finally, Tom Petty and Ann Coulter. I'd like to end with a little rant. I want to talk for a minute about the way mobile devices are being marketed these days. Now, I went to a few press conferences recently at the world's largest mobile event, Mobile World Congress, and I heard some crazy things. HTC invited its phone designer, Scott Croyle, on stage, and we were fed a video about micro-arc oxidation, where the phone's aluminum is bathed in a plasma field so that it just feels, you know, awesome, like anything bathed in plasma must. Just when you think it couldn't get any more absurd, Croyle said, and I am not making this up, we strive for our phones to be human and approachable. After calling the phone super sexy, he said that what matters most is that when somebody picks up an HTC phone, we strike an emotional connection. It's about creating that moment of desire when you immediately know that this is the one for me. Who writes this crap? Hallmark? Am I using the phone to make a call or having consensual sex with it? Now, the phone, the HTC One, has some pretty souped-up features, but that's all trivial compared to the phone's haberdashery. It has, and these are quotes, a beautifully crafted polycarbonate unibody. It has this beautiful piano gloss edge around the perimeter of the phone. The glass curves and flows over the edge. In that last case, oozing, one imagines, like pus from a bad wound. Said Croyle, when I'm using this phone, I'm always rubbing my finger around the outside surface. It really feels awesome. That made me feel pretty uncomfortable. All this talk of taut lines and beveled edges and generous curves that provide a very confident feel, well, I don't know about you, but my self-esteem just rises. Now get out of my way, David. I'm late for my plasma bath.
Well, maybe I should join you in the plasma bath with my HTC phone. The three of us can get it on.
We'll talk about that later.
Okay. Okay, we'll be right back.
So we attend Interop. This is a great opportunity to meet a lot of great enterprise end users, potential business partners. It's always great to see what's kind of coming next, and this good mixture of technology companies. I mean, you can't, it's rare to bring that group together very often, and you can really only get that here.
Oh, it's the same thing, basically. There's new companies every year, there's new technologies, and in order to be effective, you have to understand what they are, who the players are, what they do, who the market leaders are, and industry leaders, and, you know, sorts of things like that.
Next up, Fritz and I are joined here at the Valley View desk by the CDO and founder of Arista Networks, Andy Bechtolsheim.
Hi. Arista Networks was founded to deliver cloud networking solutions for large data center and high-performance computing environments. Arista's goal is to deliver the sort of low-latency networking solutions required in modern-day data centers that drive high-performance and cloud-based computing. The company's founder, CEO, and chairman Andy Bechtolsheim is the embodiment of a successful serial entrepreneur. He was a co-founder of Sun Microsystems, acquired by Oracle, Granite Systems, acquired by Cisco, Kialia, acquired by Sun, and was one of the first investors in Google in 1998 before the company was even incorporated.
Well, Andy, thanks for joining us here on Valley View. Great to have you. And I think we want to dive right in. You know, anybody can go out and buy a 100 megabit or 1 gigabit switch, drop it into their network, and they're off to the races. But you guys have a unique selling proposition when it comes to switches. What makes Arista's switches different, and in what specific scenarios do they really work well?
Right. So the fundamental issue is that in a cloud environment or on Wall Street, these things can never break. So what makes our switches unique is they never break. Basically, the network works, no excuses.
And you mentioned Wall Street, so this obviously matters when you're in a financial, because money gets lost when we have a failure.
So our biggest two market segments are in fact high-frequency trading. So over half of these high-frequency stock transactions every day go through our switches, and the largest cloud sites where there's now maintenance windows, right? These things are up 24/7, 365 days a year. They never stop. Mm-hmm. So people require networking gear that never stops.
Do the old switches, the other ones, the ones that we buy from Cisco, or they have a problem when it comes to reliability?
You know, I hate to comment on particular competitors, but we
like it though.
And you have sold a company to Cisco already. So.
We had to go through grueling acceptance criteria until we convinced the customers that this was the best of the breed, and our customers are buying the products because they feel that's the best switch.
Well, one question I have, and I know you guys made a big announcement tomorrow, we'll get to in just a second, but you talk about Wall Street, I'm sure there's some government applications as well, but as we move to things like private cloud and big data, are there some more general IT requirements or applications that would make use of an Arista?
Yeah, well, there's a lot of technical, 3-letter, 4-letter acronyms behind everything we do, and basically the features, the protocols keep evolving, right? So to solve the private cloud problem, for example, takes different protocols than the last year's switch. And our ability to deliver these functions to market has been unparalleled.
So yesterday, Arista announced the app switch, I think 7124, I can never remember. Yeah, FX, sorry. I didn't mean to leave that part out. Give us a quick snapshot of what that is. So app switch, I imagine there's some applications.
So most people think of an app switch in like what F5 does, which is it's a load balancer that balances the applications. That's not what we do. So what we do is we actually run the application on the switch. And in Wall Street, where it gets down to every partial microsecond at this moment, that's key to stay ahead of the competition. So think like a typical use case is, you have an order outstanding in the market and the market moves against you. You want to cancel that order as quickly as possible before you get dinged, because either the other guy dings you first and you lose, or you get out of it and they can ding you and you win, right? So being able to move that function into hardware makes the PND half the profitability each day.
Now, explain how this works. I mean, I think we can safely talk about FPGAs here.
Let me first come to Wall Street. So, this whole high-friction trading is basically legalized front-running, right? It used to be that, if you got the news first before the other guy, you could trade before the other guy. These days, it's if you are 1 microsecond faster than the other guy, you win, they lose. If you're 1 microsecond slower, the other guy wins, you lose. So speed is everything. Because, everybody, it's full disclosure, everybody gets the same update from the exchange, but how quickly you can act on that is the essence of making money these days. And it's all computerized, and the individual investor may feel at a loss here, but that's how it works. Now, today the switch is already down to the 450 nanosecond, 350 nanosecond range, which is no longer the limit. The limit is actually the part of the application running on the servers. By the time you take an interrupt, you get to the Linux stack, you got back out, and you make any decision, it's microseconds. Every server applet that you can replace by the FPGA hardware in the switch saves you many microseconds and you win. So the race is on to put basically what used to be software applications inside the switch into this FPGA.
So if I can, we're putting applications in field programmable gate arrays on the switch itself, but that already exists too, right? So
yeah, what people have been doing is they have FPGA cards in servers. You get one port in, one port out. You need a whole rack of them. What we have in our switch is an FPGA has 16 10G ports, processes packets 250 million packets or events per second, and at full speed can make these instantaneous decisions. So that's unparalleled. There's never been a situation where you have so much programmable horsepower inside a box, inside a network.
Can you put an entire application in the switch, or do you have to parcel it out into smaller workloads?
This is the stuff that is the ultra real-time, the stuff that matters in the last microsecond. In fact, the FPGAs are not really suitable to do more complex things because they're programmed in Verilog, or there's some high-level language translator, but it's a challenge to code these things. You need to hire hardware engineers that know gates. And so it's not for everybody, but it's for the people who want to put the metal behind the pedal. For them, it's perfect.
So it's fair to say that some of the load of the application is shared between the server, which does some of the mundane stuff.
Yeah, I mean, there's always going to be risk management and more complex decision making on the set. But what lends itself to the FPGA is the simple functions that you just have to do all the time, every time, and you want to do those as quickly and at sub-microsecond speed as possible.
So the new stuff is programmable, and do you need any special programming skills to?
Yeah, you have to know what you're doing.
You have different APIs.
But you guys have an SDK.
Yeah, I mean, it's actually an Altera Stratix 5, the latest 20 nanometer chip, and Altera is one of our partners here. We also partnered with other vendors that are in the business of supporting customers, doing some canned solutions like fixed protocol packet conversions. This thing everybody has to do, and some people support it as a standard product. But there's many possible applications. So this.
Well, let's talk about that, because I mean, I think we understand, in this day of algorithmic trading, and where a few microseconds means the difference between making money and not. there's some government applications for this as well. Can you talk about
well,
that?
there's encryption. So governments have all kinds of encryption standards, and they're not built into the basic switching ASIC that is on normal layer 2, layer 3. But in the FPGA, one can implement any encryption algorithm that's suitable for any purpose. So there's all kinds of things one can do with FPGAs in the box. It just hasn't been done before.
Okay.
All right, well, that's about all the time we have. Andy, I want to thank you very much. We have, for all of the guests who come on to Information Week Valley View, we present them with a little gift pack. So we have a mug. If you want to get the mug, you have to get on the show. And we'll talk about what it takes to get on the show a little bit later. But thank you very much for joining us here.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
You just stay put for a second. Next up, we're going to have, thank you. Next up, the co-founder of Salesforce.com, Parker Harris.
Salesforce.com got its start in the late 90s as a cloud-based Salesforce automation and customer relations management platform, and has since diversified into offering platforms as services as well as several cloud-based social enterprise solutions. The popularity of its no-software, multi-tenant, web-based approach has driven down the cost and complexity of enterprise computing for many of its customers and turned the company into the proverbial poster child of cloud computing. Parker Harris, along with Mark Benioff, co-founded the company, and Mr. Harris is also head of development for Salesforce.com.
Well, Parker, thanks for joining us on the show. It's great to see you again. Good to see you.
Good to be here.
So,
Good to see you.
That was a great opening, by the way.
Thank you. Thank you. I kept the Salesforce jokes out of it.
Yeah, I identify with Beaker. That whole thing. That was good.
You also identify with the fact that Azure has one customer too, right? You guys have gone after Microsoft in a pretty hard way. At least Mark does. So.
We go after Microsoft, but we like to have the cloud be successful everywhere. We think most of the people are coming to us for our platform as a service, and I'm pretty happy about that.
Well, last year you guys made a lot of noise about Cloud 2. So I want to talk a little bit about that. That was over a year ago, and you moved pretty quickly. And since then,
we've moved past Cloud 2.
You moved past Cloud 2. I want to ask about that. You've acquired some companies in the interim. Heroku, one of those companies.
Yeah.
You've built a portfolio of solutions that add up to what you guys have been referring to as a social enterprise.
Yeah.
So, is there a Cloud 3, or what comes after Cloud 2?
Cloud 2 is so last year. It really is. So social enterprise, if you look at the acquisitions that we did, Heroku came along and really transformed us in terms of open standards, open systems. You can run any language on us. Really added a 3GL to our service. And Radian 6, kind of in a different way, brought the ability for us to kind of listen to things on the internet. And it was really Marcel Lebrun from Radian 6 that was really helping us kind of see a new way to go in terms of the social enterprise, which was, let's know your customer. Right? And how do you know your customer? Certainly there's core CRM, which has been our history, but the customer's out on the web. They're out on Twitter, they're out on Facebook. They are watching this show right now and making comments on your site.
Oh, God.
They are. They're making comments right now about your opening. And so how do you
They're tweeting that.
So how do you know that customer? And how do you bring all those assets together? And some of those assets, frankly, the social enterprise is about services from Salesforce, but also how do we fit in the fabric of your enterprise? How does it all fit together so that you really know that customer and you can be working with that customer, and that the walls of the enterprise are kind of coming down? The idea that your systems are back here and your customers over here and you're talking to them on the phone is gone. How do you connect that customer with you in every way?
Is this Cloud 3 or is Cloud 4, or are you guys going to keep are you getting the domains, by the way?
Are you asking me to predict where our marketing is going?
Well, you guys have been the poster child for cloud computing. I mean, what was it, 1999 when the two of you founded Salesforce.com, you and Mark Benioff, and when anybody points to the chief selling proposition for the cloud, they often will refer to what it is that you guys are doing. So is this Cloud 3, or what comes after Cloud 2? What are you going to call it? Because you are, Mark especially, is the master of spin and branding.
That's part of his title.
I think right now we've moved past Cloud 2, and that was, for me, that was a baby step. When we started the company, it was Amazon.com and buying a book on the internet. For us, we wanted to make CRM that easy. And then Facebook came along and influenced us. And from a social perspective, we started changing our user interface and started thinking of a feed interface. And then more recently, mobility has really hit in a huge way. We've been talking about it probably for the past decade. Mobile's here, mobile's here, mobile's here. But if you look at what's happening on mobile devices, you know, between the tablets that are out now, the phones, when we started Salesforce, the idea of the BlackBerry and email in your pocket was transformational. And now we expect full computers, and we expect the same thing. You're going to talk about Evernote later. Phenomenal application. It's usable on any of these devices. And you know, that's where we see things going. And mobility, and for us, HTML5 as a core technology is something that we have invested heavily in, and you're going to see a ton from us in the coming year.
I want to shift gears for a second because I'm an old enterprise guy, and
You're not that
you know, well, a lot of plastic surgery. We've kind of started to hear, certainly from companies like SAP and now from Oracle. You might jump on the cloud bandwagon.
Yeah.
I would just say, you know, they're getting religion.
Yeah.
But there's, you know, my understanding is that there's a big difference between taking apps like the ones that Oracle makes and SAP makes a lot of money with, and putting them in the cloud and running them in the cloud, and applications built from the ground up to be cloud architected, I don't know, for lack of a better word. And I know multi-tenancy is a part of that, but you know, customers may say, oh yeah, I want to run it in the cloud. Oracle will let me run my applications, my even Fusion applications, in an Amazon cloud or in a Rackspace cloud.
Right.
How will you go to market and combat that? Well, a more important question, what are the key differences between an app that's hosted in the cloud and ones like yours that are built from the ground up to be cloud aware?
So if you look at in the past, there were companies like Choreo. Remember Choreo? Years and years ago, the idea that I can take, you don't have to change anything, you're going to run your enterprise application in the cloud. And that's essentially giving up the management of it. So there's some benefit to that. I don't have to worry about the computers. But that software wasn't really written to be managed remotely through a web interface. Sometimes the UIs themselves aren't really compatible with the web. And if you think about hosting, you know, if we had 100,000 different servers running all these applications, the management of that to give the innovation to our customers, we spend all of our time worrying about all of these different customers and then different applications. And instead, we run one application. So it's really a different way of thinking. And you can call that multi-tenancy. I call it worrying about delivering the value to the customer and worrying about that innovation instead of what I'm doing at the back. Because no customer cares that I'm running one computer or 1,000 computers, that it's virtualization or it's multi-tenancy. They just care that I get 3 releases a year, I get all this new social enterprise, you know, we're way past cloud 2, but that's what they're getting. And if you take some other players like an SAP or Oracle, that's not how they've architected, that's not how they think. And that's not really how they've delivered their services in the past.
So is it fair to say that Salesforce isn't too worried about Oracle and SAP becoming SaaS vendors that challenge you over the next couple of years?
Well, the interesting thing is most of our customers are using SAP and Oracle. And they're using SAP and Oracle for their back office. And we use Oracle for our back office. It's a great financial application. It's not a great UI. It's not something that I care to go use. And so if you look at where's the customer today, where's the action, it's in the customer-facing applications, it's out on the web, it's out on Facebook, it's out on Twitter, it's on your mobile device. That's not where your ERP is. ERP is still really important. And so that's always going to exist. And I think there's some vendors out there, like Workday's coming out. There's a bunch of vendors that are really innovating that space. But if you think about ERP, it takes decades and decades to really move customers over to that space.
And we're seeing the SAPs and Oracles start to buy those companies.
And they're starting to buy those companies. And you know, it is a big market. And having SAP and Oracle, it was only years ago that Larry Ellison was saying the cloud was just water vapor, if you remember that.
I do.
And there was a
Meanwhile, he was an investor. You know,
he still is an investor, yeah. So, you know, keep your enemies close.
A little bit of a hypocrite there, right?
But it's great, you know, and they're really helping to expand the market.
I have one last question, and then we have to let you go. Green computing is really hard. If you're an IT guy and you're so your CEO comes to you and says, "Hey, this green stuff's really important. Carbon emissions. Let's make sure our company's really green."
Yeah.
It seems to me, and I don't know, tell me if I'm right or wrong, that you really can't achieve the benefits until you get to a certain scale. And so maybe outsourcing to cloud-based companies who have that sort of scale and can and whose financial interests make them want to be green. Maybe that's a better approach to saying, hey, we are green. What are your thoughts on that?
So my angle on that is green computing, you can start with just efficiency. So start with, if you just did virtualization, you took the virtualization vendors out there like a VMware, you can compact your infrastructure behind your firewall.
Get rid of the underutilized
Yeah, you can get
capacity.
more efficiency out of what you have, so you have less computers. You move it to a provider like us that's massively multi-tenant, you're going orders of magnitude. So we run maybe 3,000, 4,000 servers to run everything that we do. And you think about all the servers that we've replaced in all of our customers. So there's a massive effect of just green computing in going to the cloud. And then I think there's a ton of innovation from people like Andy and others that are looking at how can we be more green about the computers themselves, about the data center designs. Facebook open sourced their data center designs, and they're looking at naturally cooled data centers. These are all things that are starting to really be important because the cloud is growing, and multi-tenancy is one form of efficiency, but you need to look at all of that as it evolves, and I think it's super important.
All right, well, Parker Harris, co-founder of Salesforce.com, will you accept
I will accept it.
Token of our appreciation
Thank
for being
you.
on the show?
I have a mug.
There you go. If you want to be on the show, by the way, we do randomly select some members of our audience to come on and make an elevator pitch, or you can pitch Fritz and I directly. You either have to come here and be at the show, or you can send your pitch to me or Fritz at FNelson on Twitter, FNELSON, or me, DBerlin, DBERLIND. Now, one of the regularly scheduled components of our show is where we invite our friends at Under the Radar to come and introduce us to a really hot new startup. Under the Radar is a conference that Fritz, you and I are both the MCs of. It's where startups get to compete for the affections of judges, American Idol style. And we have with us today Heidi Isern from Dealmaker Media, the producers of Under the Radar. And Heidi is going to help tee up our next guest, the lucky startup to get picked for this show. Heidi?
Great, thanks, David. As David mentioned, I work with Dealmaker Media, and we produce the Under the Radar conference. This year's theme is the consumerization of IT, and as Parker Harris just said, cloud is heating up, and that's what we're going to be talking about. We're going to bring 30 disruptive cloud startups to pitch to IT executives. We'd love to have you join us. The conference is April 26th in Mountain View, California. In fact, we'd like to give Valley View audience members a special discount. If you go to undertheradar.com to register and use the code VVIEW, you'll get $100 off the current ticket price. And as David mentioned, we like to present some hot startups. One that we really like and think is quite hot is Piston Cloud Computing. Piston Cloud is known as the Enterprise OpenStack Company. And what they do is they allow Fortune 1000 companies to manage their private and public clouds. With OpenStack, they completely free them from vendor lock-in. We have Joshua McKenty here today. He is the co-founder and CEO of Piston Cloud to talk more about how Piston Cloud can help large enterprises scale. He's going to be interviewed by Art Whitman, who is the VP and Managing Director of InformationWeek Reports.
All right, thanks, Heidi. So we're here with Josh, and we're going to do a little bit of whiteboard in just a second. But first, I want to thank you for coming today.
Sure, my pleasure.
So that was a pretty big sentence there. You're the enterprise player for OpenStack. So let's start out with just a quick view of what OpenStack is.
Fair enough. Let me break this down a little bit for you. What are all the basic building blocks of enterprise IT, right? So you've got storage of some kind or another. Think of these as virtual hard drives or scale-out storage of some kind. You've got networks. We've had Andy talking about Arista's innovations in this space, and then you have your traditional servers. Now the goal in any enterprise IT organization is to deliver those resources to some magical end user over here, whether they're in the marketing group or they're a developer or they're a core business application. Problem is, you've got people in charge of all of these resources. So these people act as sort of the gatekeepers, but historically, they're really slow. You might be talking 3 months, 6 months. At NASA, we used to wait 12 months to get a single server. So what OpenStack really does to start with is it puts all of these resources behind APIs instead of behind people. And APIs, as folks in the internet era are pretty familiar with, are really fast. So far, so good. This is really as far as we got. When we got OpenStack out the door at NASA and we partnered with Rackspace and it launched this giant open source community, this was really exciting for people. And so they started grabbing this publicly available source code and trying to run it. And they discovered something kind of painful, which is that OpenStack is not a product. It's just a framework for solving problems.
So all these people went from running servers and storage to running
OpenStack, exactly. So it really didn't start to feel like things were winning. And that was really where Piston Cloud stepped in. What we did is we took all of these OpenStack components and all of the underlying resources, and we wrapped this all up with something that we call Moxie. Moxie is essentially an installation, configuration, and high availability framework.
Okay.
So it takes all of OpenStack, it takes all of your virtual machines, it takes all of your compute resources, and it deploys those across an arbitrary set of hardware.
So it sounds like Moxie could be a single box that you buy that's doing management?
Moxie actually looks like this.
Okay.
So this is, as Wired Magazine called it, cloud on a stick. But really what we're looking at here is all of the software and all of the configuration for your Piston Enterprise OS OpenStack powered cloud. And the user experience, if you don't mind me showing it, pop this into your laptop. And you have a single configuration file. So OpenStack in the raw has about 18 configuration files, I think, and all of the options in each of those files need to line up with each other, which is a little error prone. Most of those options end up being networking options, but there are also configurations around distributed storage, configurations around what hypervisor to use, what the underlying operating system is, etc. You can go wrong in so many different ways.
So relatively easy to replicate, easy to get wrong as well.
That's right. So you end up with a single configuration file, a few dozen options, very straightforward for a system administrator to walk through on their laptop, set this up to map to really how enterprise IT is done in their particular organization. And a lot of this as well, our focus has been to tie to the existing enterprise systems. So if you're using Active Directory for authentication, great. Specify your Active Directory in here and it's going to connect and you're off to the races. The installation step here is really where it gets exciting. And you know, this is error prone at the best of times, but it's also a security risk. If you take, you know, in this case, hundreds or perhaps thousands of physical servers, and you have a system administrator install an operating system and then configure each one of those servers, at every step you've got one of your employees or perhaps a contractor or perhaps a managed service provider's contractor with admin credentials on that hardware. So you've pre-compromised essentially your entire IT infrastructure. Whereas with this, you're dealing with one person who's essentially a highly trusted person. They're going to take this key and they're going to walk it over to a single piece of equipment. In this case, it's an Arista switch. We're partners with Arista and we really like this gear. And they're going to plug it in, if they can get it the right way around, into the top of the rack switch. You're going to power it on, which I'm not going to do in here because I'm pretty sure I would brown out all of your video gear.
Or drowned out.
Or drown out, yes. And what happens is our software actually detects every server that's plugged into that switch. And it powers them on. It configures them, and it distributes your cloud environment, all of these resources and all of the APIs across all of those servers. And it keeps them up and running.
The servers have to be special, or is it just a Pixie boot server? Or?
Pretty much anything from any vendor that supports IPMI and has enough horsepower in it to do something useful. So yeah, we're really trying to get away from locked into any particular hardware vendor. So we built one of these earlier. I was going to build one today, but you don't have enough power in your office. No offense. We built one earlier. We've got a few of these running in Colo, a couple of blocks away. This one's called Copperfield. And I was just going to launch really quickly a Windows VM. Everyone likes to see Windows. And I will name this Tech Web Demo Art. Make it a little big enough to run Windows. Let's see, Windows is a bit demanding. So
speaking of size, is there a minimum, maximum size that we're dealing with here?
Absolutely. the way that we manage high availability is using the Paxos algorithm. Without getting really technical, this is what Google uses for Bigtable. This is what Yahoo built into Hadoop. This is really the only mathematically proven way to manage a distributed system at scale. And you need a minimum of 5 servers to start with.
Okay.
So you can't run this on one box. You can't run this in a virtualized environment. And you really don't want to use this as a hobbyist.
So so switch,
5 server minimum.
servers, some storage.
Maximums at this point in a single zone about 1,000 physical servers.
Okay.
But you can scale up dozens or hundreds of zones into one cloud. So you can manage really hundreds of thousands of physical servers. The design goal for OpenStack has always been a million physical servers and tens of millions of VMs.
Okay, so if I can get our CEO, though, to up the power a little bit and write a check for $100,000 or so, we're off the races?
Yeah, pretty much. Hardware, 75 to 100K to get started.
I see him over there. He says he wants 2 of them.
Fantastic. I am taking checks after this demo. So if we have a quick look at that virtual machine, let's see how we're doing here. Windows, yeah, okay, so Microsoft is booting there. I have not, no matter how hard I work on the performance of OpenStack itself, I cannot get Windows to boot any faster. I don't know, I'm sure there's a secret trick for that somewhere, but you know, we've really talked about high availability. I'd like to demonstrate that if I could.
Okay.
So while this is booting up in the background, we'll bring up one of my co-founders, Christopher McGowan, is over in the data center.
Hi, Christopher.
Yeah.
Hey, can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Yeah.
Right.
So data center's a little loud. I don't know if you've been in a data center recently. Chris, if you want to spin that camera around and just pull out a couple of drives. Just hold the camera still so we can watch. This is, yeah, okay, I can't watch actually. Sorry. Yeah, maybe one more. Okay. Yeah. So this is the hardware that is running that dashboard and the VM that we were launching a minute ago. We would pull the servers out themselves, but 1, it's hard to get at the cables, and 2, our colo provider gets upset.
Good enough to
it's a decent demo. If we switch back to the Windows machine here, let's go ahead and send a Control-Alt-Delete and log in, and it's still running. So there you go. I mean, that's on the HA side, it doesn't really get more dramatic than that. And this is every piece of storage you have, every virtual machine you have. I mean, as Andy pointed out earlier, what the enterprise expects is that things don't break.
Right.
And we're trying to deliver the power of cloud with that level of reliability.
And so the high availability that we're seeing here is a function of Piston Cloud or a function of OpenStack?
It's a function of Moxie.
Okay.
I mean, OpenStack sort of makes it possible, but actually achieving that really takes a Paxos-based framework, and that's what we delivered.
Okay, sounds good.
Great. Well, thank you very much, Ike.
All right, thank you. And so next we're going to have Phil Libin, the CEO of Evernote, who's going to join Fritz and David here at the desk.
Evernote is based in Mountain View, California, and users of its software and web-based services can capture anything from their real and digital lives and save it in a way that makes it easily searchable and retrievable from almost any device at any time. From creating text and ink notes to snapshots of whiteboards and wine labels to clips of web pages, Phil Libin is the founder and CEO of Evernote, the ubiquitous cloud, mobile, and desktop productivity service.
All right, well, Phil, thanks very much for joining us here at the InformationWeek Valley View desk. You should know that Fritz and I are big fans of Evernote. We're trying to maintain an objective eye here, but we use your software to actually organize all of our thoughts and our questions for the show. And
it's like Rogaine. We're customers too.
The collaborative. Maybe you're a customer, but I have no trouble with my hair, Fritz. We love the collaborative aspects of the show. We get to share tips on using Rogaine. It's amazing how you can just sort of email stuff back and forth. In fact, I've emailed a few unsavory photos into Fritz's Evernote and tried to get him in trouble with our HR department, but it hasn't worked so far. The question I really have is that Evernote is a great application, and I'll give you a few seconds to describe that. But you also got this platform, I think you call it the trunk.
Yep.
And then you're investing in other companies. You recently acquired another company whose software we use, Sketch. So if you're an observer of these different components, it's really hard to figure out who Evernote is and what you're doing.
Wow, well, thank you so much. I actually see you guys both running Evernote now, which makes me even more terrified to be up here on camera with two people running a product that I'm sure is going to crash at any second.
No.
But it's awesome. Thank you so much. But yeah, Evernote we try to make a second brain for everyone. So we try to make an external brain because we figured no one is fully happy with their meat brain. Everyone wants to be smarter, have a better memory, be more productive. And that's what we do. It's a product that follows you around forever and helps you remember everything on every device, every computer, every phone, and so on.
By every device, you mean? I mean, one of the things that we like about it is I've got it on the iPad, got it on my desktop. It's on the web, so I can walk up to any web kiosk and access my Evernotes.
Yep.
BlackBerry, iPhone, Android.
It's everywhere. Yeah.
Yeah, and it really is a platform, but it's a platform for the world's memory. Our vision is basically to take all of your most important information, all of your most important personal information, work information, whatever, and make it smarter for your benefit. So do everything we can to it to make it more useful for you. So everything you put into Evernote is private by default. You can choose to share it and do things like that. But in general, it's meant for you, for your information, as a way to relate everything together and make it smarter. And yeah, we have a full platform API for other developers to go and add functionality to this.
So some of the things I do with Evernote is I clip web pages, and it just takes the whole web page and drops it into a note that I can access offline, so I don't have to worry about being online. I can take notes at a meeting, and it records those and syncs them up everywhere. Pictures, I can do all kinds. When I look at something like Trunk, which is an API, so that other application developers can build apps that run on Evernote, what are the sorts of apps that somebody might integrate into Evernote to make Evernote more useful? Because actually, to be honest, I go look into the Trunk store, for lack of a better definition, and I can't really understand what it is I'm looking for when I go there.
Well, the Trunk isn't the API. The Trunk is really our showcase of some integrated product. It's kind of a crushingly clever name for a showcase of third-party products, and so there's a bunch of stuff on there that we show off, but there's a lot more that has just been developed through the API. In fact, there's more than 10,000 developers that have written things in the API. There's only about 300 things in the Trunk that we think are kind of more consumer-friendly finished products.
Such as?
Well, the stuff that I use in the Trunk all the time is Penultimate, which is a great iPad app for taking handwritten notes and syncing them to Evernote. I use Expensify, which is a really cool app for doing basically automating expense reports. So if I'm at a restaurant, I can take a picture of a receipt with my phone. I can also use Evernote Food to remember what I ate, and Evernote Hello to remember who I was there with, and then I can take notes in Evernote. And all of those things are interrelated together, and then when I go and automatically submit my expense reports with Expensify, it does that, but it also, since it's all in Evernote, it knows who I was there with and what we talked about and where we were and what we ate and all of that kind of stuff.
I think that's cool, is that you're talking about Evernote Food. So for example, you go out, you eat somewhere, you can keep that in your memory. I went to this restaurant and ate that, or you can use Evernote Food to submit it to this other thing that is your digital memory and helps you concentrate on other things other than memorizing. Because I know my brain is full. I have no room for anything else to remember, so it's good to have something else helping me out.
Yep. Yeah, we really, we build it for us. Well, really for me. I mean, Evernote is...
Scratching your own itch, so to say.
Yeah, I wasn't getting any smarter, and I realized I needed something to make me smarter, and so we build Evernote.
Well, Fritz isn't getting any smarter either. He might have a question for you.
I do. I want to talk a little bit about Evernote in the enterprise, and I think maybe we started out with Evernote on the consumer side. At least that's where we found it, is personal use. But I know when you launched Trunk, SAP was there, for example.
Still there. Yeah.
Still there. So how do you see it becoming more of a tool for the enterprise? Maybe describe what SAP has done and how you're seeing enterprises start to use it.
Sure. Well, SAP actually built a system on top of Evernote that basically lets teams collaborate on making decisions, and lets you pull information from your Evernote account into these collaborative team rooms to help make decisions, but also store everything in Evernote so you have a record of the decision process. But Evernote in Enterprise is going to be a really big thing for us. Basically, most of our users are professionals. So about 75% of our users say that they use Evernote at work and at home for both personal and professional things. And so even though we only really target people as individuals, we don't sell to people as enterprise users or personal users. Like, everyone is just a human being for now, for the most part. But business users are the core Evernote audience. And so our goal is to make Evernote play well at work, to make it work really well with all of your other IT systems so that people are already using it in the enterprise, but the next step is to make them be able to use it officially, make it a good citizen at work, integrated with all the other systems, integrated with your corporate IT policies and security policies.
Well, one of the things that that I think is kind of interesting about it is that it's free,
Yep.
But there is a premium version that you pay for, and I guess as it expands into more of a platform, more of a place where you can store web pages, memories, do expenses, collaborate, and things like that.
Right.
And maybe even as it enters the enterprise door more and more, how do you see Evernote? Well, what's the business model?
Well, the business model it works really well. So it's a freemium model, which means Evernote is free. And many companies, when they have a freemium model, they emphasize the wrong part. They emphasize the premium part. And we really emphasize the free part. Like the free version of Evernote is the main version, and we want people comfortable that they can use the free version forever, for the rest of their lives. And it's not a lost leader. It's not a bait and switch. It's full featured. But there is a professional version available that gives you some really cool new features, additional features for power users. And what we found is people really like to buy. What they hate is the feeling that they're being sold to. So we never sell. There's no one's job at Evernote is to make it look better than it really is, to convince you to pay for something. We put all of our effort into making the best possible free product. Our goal is to make users keep using it, to stay for the rest of their lives. And the longer you stay, the more you fall in love with it. And once you're in love with it, you feel like paying. And the psychology totally changes. And so more and more people convert to our paid premium version, depending in direct proportion to how long they've been using Evernote.
It is sort of viral like that. I mean, I think that in order to enable the collaborative version where Fritz and I could share notebooks, which we do for this show,
right,
and also the bit where we can email stuff into each other's Evernote notebooks, because you have a lot of different notebooks. That's an interesting feature, but it does raise some concerns. So, for example, going back to the enterprise question, security. I would think that in an enterprise, we want to be able to lock it down so that Fritz can control permissions. Who gets to email stuff into his Evernote?
Yep.
Or into which notebooks? Or would you give us your Evernote email?
No.
See?
Yeah, well, you wouldn't want to give it to me after what I did to Fritz.
Yeah, I just heard what you were doing there.
So there are some further enterprise steps you can take.
Yeah.
Can we look forward to those?
Absolutely. Yeah. Our central focus is trust. Right. Our whole business model is based on getting the trust of hundreds of millions of users, mostly professional users, kind of the modern knowledge worker, and earning that trust and keeping it forever. So all of the security practices have to be, the best possible security practices, but the privacy and security policies are, I think, even more important. So our fundamental business model doesn't depend on us doing anything clever with your data. Like, we don't monetize your data. We monetize you by making you in love with the product. So we don't analyze your data. We don't do data mining. We don't use it to sell ads or drive affiliates. Like, we don't do anything clever with your data. And that's probably the most important part of kind of keeping and earning that trust, especially in enterprise.
Well, speaking of not selling, and this is our last question for you, you don't sell Skitch, you give it away for free. An amazingly powerful application for those of you who need something to take screenshots, annotate that stuff, send it around, drag it and drop. I mean, it's just an unbelievably powerful application.
Thank you.
How can you afford to give it away the way you do? Or is the other shoe going to drop at some point and I'm going to have to pay $30 or something for it?
Well, the other shoe is definitely going to drop, but that other shoe is just Skitch is going to become so much more awesome. It's going to be an awesome shoe. It's still going to be free. It's just going to be even better. And it's going to feed into the same monetization funnel that we have, which is make the best possible product, get people to use it for the rest of their lives, and the more you use it, the more likely you are to want to pay us $5 a month. And that's been working great so far.
Yeah, I think it's a good point. And I was using Evernote for years, and I was never pushed to the premium version. I kind of had to go look for that information, and there were some features we wanted, so we did pay. So I would encourage everybody to take a look at that.
Our central business model is that it's more important that you stay than that you pay. And that's fundamentally true because it rhymes. And once we looked around for a business model until we found the rhyming one, and we said, that's it. We got it. We're sticking with it for 100 years.
We'll have to remember that. Well, Phil, as with all of our other guests, we'd like to present you with a token of our appreciation for being on the show.
Wow.
An Information Week Valley View mug. Hopefully you'll drink some coffee out.
Thank you.
Or the other shoe will drop and we'll make you pay for it.
That's right.
Thank you so much.
It's a razors and blades strategy. To fill it up with coffee, you're going to have to pay us. When we come back, Fritz and I will join some lucky members of our live in-studio audience to give away some stuff and also to hear about some randomly picked companies who want to make their best elevator pitch to you.
Since its debut in 2007, Internet Evolution has become the de facto source for independent opinion and analysis of next-gen Internet technology and its impact on business, society, and the future. Always on and always relevant, Internet Evolution's unique editorial voice and unstinting commitment to debunking the hype and hoopla around Internet technology makes it a must-read for its audience of information professionals.
Information Week produces over 200 in-depth reports each year, with industry-leading information, including our Impact Report, outlining the top 5 mobile security threats, our 2012 Enterprise Social Networking Research Report, and our 2012 Research Report on Business Intelligence and Information Management. Our mission is to help you make informed buying decisions. Registration is free, access to content is unlimited, and is a must-have for all IT professionals.
Well, Fritz, we're standing out here with our live studio audience. This is the fun part of the show.
There's a lot of drinking going on.
There's a lot of drinking. So yeah, if anybody wants to come and attend one of our next shows, we have one coming up on April 24th. You're welcome to join us here in the studio. It's free. You can come, drink, eat our food, clap at our funny jokes or at the not so funny jokes. If you want to find out more about that, you can go to tinyurl.com/valleyview5. You can also go there to find out how to register online to watch the webcast online. And this component of our show is where we're going to randomly pick a lucky company out of our audience and let them have a chance to make their elevator pitch for what they do, not only to our viewers, but also to us. And we'll try to ask some tough questions. So who is the lucky member of our audience?
Well, we drew this while the show was going on. We have Mitch Bishop, who is the Chief Marketing Officer for .NET Nuke.
Okay, Mitch, come on up. Mitch, nice to have you here. So .NET Nuke, it sounds like an interesting, going back to what Fritz said earlier about Azure having a customer and well, not too many customers. It sounds like you're nuking .NET, or is that, did I get it wrong?
No, that's not, you're going to hold it. Okay.
I'm very proprietary about my microphone.
I wouldn't dream of touching
Don't grab anything of his, trust me.
Trust me.
Tried it myself.
No, I mean, .NET Nuke is actually the world's largest content management system in the Microsoft ecosystem. It started as an open source project, and over the years, downloaded 7 million times. We still get 80,000 downloads a month. And about 2.5 years ago, we turned it into a commercial company, selling a commercial version of the product.
So it's a typical open source model. You service the people pay you to service it and maintain it, and then other people can do it on their own if they want to.
Our commercial versions actually are now differentiated. In addition to support, there's actually additional features.
Okay.
And what we're doing is last year we made it cloud ready and mobile ready, and then this year we're moving social. We see that merging.
Talk about, if you've got so many customers, I know it's going to be tough to pick a couple, but pick a couple of good applications.
Well, like a good story would be Aviva, large insurance company in Europe, obviously. They bought an online auto insurance company, and they needed to rebrand it and redo the site really quick. With their current technology, their IT department said it was going to take them 6 months. They did it in 2 weeks with our product.
So this is good, and I'm just trying to figure out who it's good for. It's good for companies who have a large Windows infrastructure, very comfortable working in that environment, and who have a need for an enterprise-class content management system put on top of that?
Well, it's the mid-market is tremendously underserved. There's 450,000 companies in North America and Europe that are between 50 and 5,000 employees. And these companies covet enterprise CMS class kinds of things, but they can't afford the big ECM products. So that's what we do.
Where does the name .NET Nuke come from?
Well, .NET obviously is from the Microsoft ecosystem. Back in the day when the project started, Nuke was sort of synonymous with open source projects. And we don't say when we go, our engineering teams in Vancouver, when we cross the border and they ask you where you work, you're very careful not to say .NET Nuke. We say DNN Corporation because you might get pulled aside for 4 hours later. You're still getting strip shirts.
Yeah, we don't want that. Why don't you tell our audience where they can find more information?
Go to our website, .netnuke.com, and you can download the free version of our product or check out the commercial version.
Great.
Okay, well, Mitch, thanks very much. Feel free to take a seat.
You do
get a mug. He asked if he get a mug, and the truth is he does get a mug. And if you want to get a mug, you got to be on the show. And to get on the show, you got to pitch me or Fritz, or you have to show up in our in-studio audience and get randomly selected, just like Mitch did. Well, now comes the fun part. There's a lot of people who are only here for the gear, right? And we get to give away some gear. I think we're going to start off with the gear that we're giving away online. And I'm just going to grab the prizes that we have here. One of them is the Kindle Fire. Okay, I'm not going to turn it on right now because I know when you turn it on, it's not connected with an account, and therefore, I'll hold it up there. It's brand new. And the other one is a Barnes & Noble Nook. So
they were back fighting earlier. We had to separate those two.
We had to separate these two, right? Yeah. Now this one doesn't appear to have been bathed in plasma. It doesn't.
It's not good enough then.
Yeah, I don't know. Not good enough for your sexual orientation.
Well, it does have beveled edges though, and crisp surface breaks.
Okay.
So that's important.
Sounds like a surfing allegory or something like that.
Yeah, well, we'll come back around.
So who is the winner of our Kindle Fire?
The winner of our Kindle Fire is one Robert Flynn.
Okay, so Robert.
We can clap. We can clap. It's good.
All right. So Robert, if you're listening, just pay attention to your inbox. We'll notify you on how to get your hands on your Kindle Fire. Again, if you want to win one of these prizes from a distance in our online audience, you have to register. Go to tinyurl.com/valleyview5. So we have
doesn't have to fly here to get it.
Doesn't have to fly here to get it. We'll send it to him, and we have another one to give away to some other lucky audience member who went to the trouble of registering.
That's right, and that person is one Jim Hill.
Jim Hill, all right.
All right.
So 2 lucky members of our online audience. Now we also have some other prizes to give away here to members of our in-studio audience. So a lot of incentive to come and attend Valley View. Not only could your company get featured on Valley View, but you get free gear. So we have some prizes that we're ready to give away and some stuff from, well, we have Karen Aubie here, right? So
where's Karen?
Get Karen up here.
Karen
all right,
Aubie,
come on up, Karen.
Karen runs PR for Plantronics, and she's always very generous with the gear here. And what'd you bring?
Well, today, I won't touch your mic, I know better. So today I have the Callisto 825. This is a home office speakerphone. It's set up for people who work from home and maybe have a company-issued soft phone like from Microsoft or Cisco or something like that, or use Skype for some of their calls. It can also pair to their mobile phone, so they can use a mobile phone with the speakerphone with their mobile. I've also brought the Backbeat 903 Plus.
Yeah, I'm going to hold that up for our camera here. Go ahead, keep going.
That is perfect for working out, running, jogging, whatever, and listening to music and taking calls. It also has a battery meter for Android and iPhone, so you know if your headset is losing a charge.
Wow, great.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for bringing this stuff.
Yeah.
We picked a couple names here, and I'm just going to call them out. So the winner will give away the Callisto 825, valued at?
This is about a $175 street price.
Street price.
Yeah, I don't want to give MSRP.
Right. Not black market price. Leanne Varney.
Leanne.
We like when they get excited. Yeah.
Come on up, Leanne.
You
got to
can come
get
up
your
and
get on TV.
Okay.
Here we go. All right.
Here you go.
All right. Well done. Okay.
Okay. So we have another winner of these.
The Backbeat. Backbeat 903.
Love to win them myself.
And the winner, I hope I would say this right, Aileen Chin. We're going to get you on here whether you want to or not.
There you go.
All right.
Excellent. Karen, thank you so much for bringing that.
Anytime.
All right, what else do we have?
Well, I've got in my hands the Aftershocks headphones, and Fritz, you and I have had the pleasure of discovering these at CES and then playing around with them after. And I'll tell you what they do. When you put them on your head, it's a little tangled up here, but when you put them on your head, the part that transmits the sound is not over your in your ears, like an earbud would be, and I don't know if the camera can get that. It's actually sitting over your temples. And the way this works is through bone conduction. So when you've got this hooked up to your iPod or your phone or something like that, you hear the sound through the bone conduction as opposed to directly in your ears. Now, when would this come in handy? Well, let's say you're driving and you're one of these people who has earbuds in your ears and it's obstructing your ability to hear what's going on around you. This is a safer way to drive because you can either carry on your hands-free conversations or listen to music or whatever you do without getting fully distracted by the fact that these are covering your ears and you can't hear what's going on around you. Running. If you're running around and you know, runners have been injured or killed by moving traffic, this gives you a better chance of hearing that traffic before it hurts you. It comes with the ability to to switch over between phone and music mode, and it's basically rechargeable through a little dongle that comes. There's a little bit of a recharge thing that needs to happen to this bit that's on the wire here. I don't know if you can see that. So who's the lucky winner of these?
Who is the lucky winner? Shoshana Deutschkron. Did I say that right?
Shoshana is sitting right in front. Actually, this is we're going to give you a brand new box instead of one that's
you don't
that's
want
here.
he's been sweating.
That's right. It's got to come this.
All right. We have one more gift to give.
And that is? We have to fish it out of our bag here.
Oh, there we go. No?
What's the next? Do we have another? Oh, the backpack. I'm looking for the backpack. Here we go. Oh, there it is.
Right. Karen was trying to take it.
All right. So
it's a backpack.
It's just a backpack, but it's not any backpack. I'll hold this up to the cameras here. So what this is it's called a power bag, and I don't know if you can see, but if the camera can focus in there, you can see these lights that are indicating how much power is in the bag. Now the way this bag works is that when you store your different electronics in here, and there's a battery inside. I don't know if we can see that. It's hard to see. But deep inside here is a battery, and this battery can be used to charge the devices that you put in the bag, like your iPhone or another phone. It has the 32-pin connector for your iOS devices. It already also has the USB connector for other devices that charge through that. And there's a charger in the bag so that you can automatically charge the battery that's in it through this charging port that's right here. Right there on the outside of the bag. So very cool backpack if you like to keep your devices charged.
It's for gearheads like you, but who isn't these days?
Yeah, who isn't? Everybody in the room is a gearhead. And you know, one of the things is that if you own an iPhone 4S like I do, that thing runs out of power about halfway through the day, so you need something else to kind of give it another jolt of juice to get you through to the rest of the night. So we have this bag. Who's the winner of it?
Yeah, it's nice beveled edges too. The winner of that bag is, I'm going to butcher this name too, Kelly Indrieri. Yeah?
All right, Kelly, come on up.
You have to come up and get it.
There you go. I was like, did I detect a little sarcasm there?
Sarcasm.
I don't know.
A little sarcasm.
All right, well, all right. So, well, Fritz, that's about all we have, except for the fact that we're going to do another Valley View on April 24th. Again, as I said earlier, you want to sign up for that. You can go to tinyurl.com/valleyview5. If you want to pitch Fritz or I to be on the show, or you want to find out how to become a member of our live in-studio audience, just send us a note on Twitter. F. Nelson is Fritz's Twitter ID. My ID is D. Berlind, D-B-E-R-L-I-N-D. Okay, so with that, for Information Week Valley View, I'm David Berlind.
And I'm Fritz Nelson. Thank you for joining us.